Boker Tov. Okay, so we didn't meet last week. I just was with Vivian. I just was with Vivian now finishing the Shiva. So I apologize for that. But
Rabbi,
let's.
They have fed the souls of so many children.
And adults, in a special way also.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And one of the things that I had said about them, I did not, Ken?
No.
Ken, I'll burn up.
Yeah.
Ken.
I was at the funeral.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. They worked as caterers.
Yeah.
And you could be a caterer, it's a real lesson. You could just do your job, and you do your job. And no complaints. You did your job. Right? But so many relationships that they had were built, deep relationships were built from them being hired initially as caterers. And the people, as someone who forgot I mentioned this at the funeral, someone who forgot to pick up their desserts. So they drove the 20 miles to bring them their desserts to make sure that they would have the proper Yom Tov meal.
Yeah, Vivian's parents were caterers too. Vivian's parents and my parents are very good friends. And her mother is very much like that they are.
Wow.
Her mother and their father too.
How's she
Yeah.
doing? How is she doing?
She's doing all right. She's doing,
Very tough.
It's tough. They've been together,
I know.
working together.
Yeah.
Like 24/7 together.
And since they were 15 years old.
Oh my God. That just makes me cry.
Since they were 15 years old, that's when they began. Okay, so I'd like to do a little bit of Emor, last week's Parsha, a little bit of Bahar, and a little bit of Yehoshua, because there's a very fascinating connection that I heard from Rabbi David Foreman that I would like to share with you. But let's first begin with Emor. Okay, going back to page 600 and
72.
but we're not going to the beginning though. So 684. Okay. Now, in another week and a half's time, we have the holiday of Shavuot. Shavuot is the celebration of receiving the Torah, right? Now, I always say every religion has to have its revelation narrative. Judaism is unique, and our revelation being to everyone, not to one person who wakes up and says, listen, I had a dream last night. God came to me, and he explained to me that the way we're serving him is not correct. There's a new way. It's going to be called Cinerism. I want all of you to sign up and join my religion, right? And Jews do what? They laugh, right? Right? But that's how all other religions began. With an individual or individuals having heard the word and spreading it to others, and they're accepting it, right? We're skeptical people, right? That would not have been passed, that wouldn't have worked for us. So, Matan Torah, Mount Sinai, that is the beginning. Well, not the beginning, Abraham, Egypt, Exodus, etc. But that was the point of the marriage of us and God. That was our revelation, mass revelation. That is when the Torah was given, not the Torah as in V'zot HaTorah Asher Sa Moshe. That was not given for another 40 years. But the teachings of the Torah were given, and Moshe was writing it, starting then, and then according to some opinions, piecemeal until the end of the 40 years, at the end of his life. That's when it was completed, and that's when it was given of Zot HaTorah Asher Sa Moshe. But this is the holiday of the Jewish people. This is when we became the nation of the book. This is when we received our Torah. The Torah is Torat Chaim, translated often as a living Torah, but Torat also means instructions. Zot Torat HaChatat. Torat Chaim is instructions for life. That's what Torah Chaim is. That's when we received our instructions for life. Yet, let's see how the Torah describes it. So on page 684, let's go starting on Pasuk Tet Vav. Okay, so I want to take that for us in Hebrew. Perek Chav Gimel Pasuk Tet Vav, page 684. Usfartem lachem.
וספרתם לכם ממחרת השבת, מיום אביכם את עומר התנופה, 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה. עד ממחרת השבת השביעית תספרו 50 יום והקרבתם מנחה חדשה להשם. ממושבותיכם תביאו לחם תנופה, 2 שני סרומים סולת תהיינה חמץ, תאפנה ביקורים להשם.
Oh, wow. So that's how the Torah describes it. Let's hear that in English. Starting from 15, you shall count for yourselves.
You shall count for yourselves from the morrow of the rest day, from the day when you bring the Omer of the wailing. 7 weeks they shall be complete.
So we're counting 7 complete weeks.
Until the morrow of the 7th week you shall count 50 days, and you shall offer a new meal offering to Hashem.
Oh, so the morrow of the 7th week is the holiday of Shavuot. And what should you do? You should bring a new meal offering to Hashem. Mincha chadasha. Continue from your dwelling.
From your dwelling places you shall bring bread that shall be weighed. 2 loaves made of 10 ephah. They shall be fine flour. They shall be baked leavened.
Oh, interesting. Chametz, leavened. Now, for the most part, we don't find chametz in the offerings in the Beit HaMikdash. Shavuot, of all times, it has to be chametz.
First offerings to Hashem.
Okay.
With the bread you shall...
And that's it. And that's it. That's what it says about this holiday. Right? No 4th of July fireworks going off over here. The day of Sinai Day, Matan Torah Day. It doesn't breathe a word about that.
Rabbi, can I just ask you, it's
Yeah.
the 50th day?
Yes.
That's the 50th day.
Yes. Okay. So we count 49 days.
Right, and then the
Right? Shabbos will be our 49th day. Then Saturday night will be Shavuot. And whereas normally we'll start a holiday early, right? We start Shabbos early. We start a holiday early. Here the Torah tells us don't start it early. Why? Because we said Sheva Shabbatot, 7 weeks, verse 15. Timimot tiyana. They shall be complete. So we don't cut into those days. We have to have 49 complete days, and then Shavuot begins. But the Torah doesn't mention a word about Matan Torah. You know what's also strange? What's the name of the holiday? Shavuot. What does Shavuot mean? Either weeks or oaths. Simply it means weeks. Right? So it seems to be all connected to the weeks. What is this emphasis on the weeks? And why is Shavuot? Why is Matan Torah? Why is Mount Sinai not mentioned at all? All that's mentioned is Mincha Chadasha LaHashem. So, before we get to the point that I wanted to build up a little bit, the Kli Yakar, one of the classic commentators on the Chumash, he says that the Torah doesn't call Rosh Hashanah the Yom Hadin, the Day of Judgment, and it doesn't call Shavuot the Day of Matan Torah. And he explains that had we made a big fanfare, had the Torah made a big fanfare that Shavuot is the day of Matan Torah, so then we'd think, oh, there's one day where we focus on Torah, on the Torah being given. There's one day. But in fact, what we are told is, B'chol yom yiyu divrei Torah alecha kechadashim. We have to feel the newness, the excitement, the potential and the energy of Torah on a daily basis. Therefore, we don't want to make a big deal in the Torah about it being the day of Matan Torah. Every day is Matan Torah. We say the mitzvah of Talmud Torah is keneged kulam. It's equal to all of the mitzvot. Torah is our chance to read the God book and make that connection. So we don't want to limit it to one day. But what does the Torah call it? Mincha Chadasha. What's a Mincha Chadasha? A new offering. That we need to feel this newness. Also, he points out that this is going to be chametz. Now, what does chametz represent? Pride, arrogance, desires, as opposed to the more humble matzah. Right? So why on Shavuot are we involved with specifically chametz? And there's another very interesting debate in the Talmud. The Talmud says there are two ways to enjoy a holiday. It could be lachem, for you, nice lavish meals. It could be lashem, no meals, just pure spirituality. And the Gemara says you can do, we have this debate, but when it comes to Shavuot, everyone agrees there it has to be part, not spirituality, part of the eating. Everyone agrees Shavuot has to involve the eating aspect. You'd think Shavuot of all holidays, that should be the holiday where we focus on the spiritual, the ruchani. Maybe next week we'll do this a little more in depth. But the Gemara discusses a debate that took place between Moshe and the angels about the Torah being given. And Moshe's winning point was, we are physical beings in a physical world. And therefore we need the Torah to lift us up, to focus us. So yes, it's specifically on Shavuot where we have to partake of the physical, to recognize that the Torah is what takes us physical beings in the physical world and allows us to become godly, to become uplifted. So yes, you have to eat on Shavuot. And the offering that's brought on Shavuot is chametz. Right? Yes, with all of our arrogance and pulls, and yes, the Torah is what allows us to stay focused, to recognize who we are and where we are. We seem to make a big deal out of counting 7 times 7, right? We count 7 days. We count 7 weeks, 7 times 7, giving us the 49 days. And then on the 50th, that's when something special happens, and that is this Mincha Chadasha, this Shavuot. Where else do we have this cycle of 7 times 7 followed by something else?
Shemitah and Yovel.
Good. Shemitah and Yovel. So let's take a look at, right? So if that's where the Torah is introducing Shavuot, it would seem to have some parallels. And then we'll find another very fascinating place of this sevens and then. So let's take a look when we discuss on page 696. This week's Parsha, it's a double Parsha this week, Bahar B'chukotai. Okay? And we say, V'safarta lecha, page 696, Pasuk Chet, someone for us in Hebrew, please. So the Torah started telling us about the Shemitah year, right? That year you can't act as an owner of the property. Whatever it grows, everyone will go and partake. So you have 6 years in the Shemitah cycle, Shemitah year, 6 years Shemitah year. Continue, whoever started before, Pasuk Chet v'safarta lecha. Someone started.
ספרת לך 7 שבתות שנים, 7 שנים, 7 פעמים, והיו לך ימי 7 שבתות השנים, 49 שנה. והעברת שופר תרועה בחודש השביעי, בעשור לחודש, ביום הכיפורים, תעבירו שופר בכל ארציכם, וקידשתם את שנת ה-50 שנה, וקראתם דרור בארץ לכל יושביה. this is a nice פסוק. יובל תהיה לכם, ושבתם איש של אחוזתו, ואיש של משפחתו, תשובו.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dalia. Pasuk 8 in English. Someone please take that for us.
You shall count for yourself 7 cycles of sabbatical years, 7 years, 7 times. The years of the 7 cycles of sabbatical years shall be for you 49 years. You shall sound a broken blast on the shofar in the 7th month, on the 10th of the month, on the day of atonement. You shall sound the shofar throughout your land. You shall sanctify the 15th year and proclaim freedom throughout the land for all its inhabitants. It shall be the Jubilee year for you. You shall return each man to his ancestral heritage, and you shall return each man to his family.
So what happens on the Yovel year? So we counted 7 years Shemitah, 7 years Shemitah, 7 years Shemitah. 7 times we do that. And then after the 49th year, which was again Shemitah, what do we have? Another Shemitah year, which is like Shemitah on steroids. It's Yovel. What happens on Shemitah? What happens on the 7th year? You can't, right? You can't plant, plow, harvest as an owner, right? But you can gather produce as can anyone else. And also loans, outstanding loans are canceled. And then we count 7, we go through 7 of those cycles, we come to the Yovel year. What happens in the Yovel year? Any of your ancestral land that you might have sold, well, you never really sold it. You sold it for a period of time. And the buyer knew he was only buying it until Yovel. So the price will reflect how many years there are from the sale point until the Yovel. Comes Yovel, it reverts. It comes back to you.
Because you never really own the land. You just sort of...
Okay. So the lesson of Shemitah, and then again the lesson even more resoundingly on Yovel is the land belongs to God. And you are not Kili Haaretz, the land is mine. Now, furthermore, if a person was a Jewish slave, a person becomes a Jewish slave either by selling himself into slavery, saying, I can't deal with all of these bills and all of these responsibilities, right? It's almost like a little bit of a communist or a socialist setup. Let me go do my work, come home, and I know that all my needs are taken care of. My kids have their tuition, my kids have their schooling, clothing, food, housing, right? Let me just clock in, clock out, do my job, and not have to worry about all these things. That's why a person will sell themselves into slavery, and that'll be for a maximum of 6 years. Unless Yovel comes out within those 6 years, in which case Yovel frees the person. Now, a person could also be sold into slavery in a very, very specific situation. And that is the person stole and can't pay back that which they stole. Then the Beit Din will sell that person as an Eved Ivri, as a Jewish slave. And once again, for a maximum of 6 years, if Yovel comes out in the middle of those 6 years, then the person goes free. If at the end of the 6 years the person says, I kind of like it here, I want to stay on, the person can choose to stay on. His ear will be pierced by a doorpost, reminding the person that the doorpost was supposed to be our exit from slavery in Egypt. Why are you going in the door that you were meant to go out from? That ear that heard God say, Kili avadim, to me you are meant to be servants, and you're taking your own master, that ear gets pierced. However, even in such a case, he will only be enslaved until Yovel. Now keep in mind that that this enslavement, it's not harsh labor. He needs to be treated well. Actually, we learn out, the Gemara says, that if you acquire a servant, it's like you acquired a master. Why? Because the Pasuk says, Ki tov lo imach. It's good for him with you. So we learn out that you can't be on a nice, comfortable mattress and have him sleeping on straw. Right? The Gemara says, I guess today would be the opposite. The Gemara says you can't be eating white bread, right, and giving him like this coarse, whole wheat bread. Now we say the opposite. You can't have the whole wheat bread and make him eat that poisonous, enriched flour, white bread, heaven forbid, right? So the Gemara says, right, so he's got to be equal to you. So there Tosafot asks, the commentator on the Gemara asks, so why does it say that you're acquiring a master? You're acquiring a colleague, equal. You're not acquiring anyone better than you. So Tosafot says fantastically, well, let's say you only have one mattress. You have one Sealy Posturepedic, whatever you call that, and the other one is a lumpy foam mattress. So Tov Lo Imach, it's good for him with you. You can't take the good mattress, the Sealy, and give him the lumpy foam. Fair enough. So neither of us should have the good one. Right? What? He should be on the good one, and I, the owner, I should sleep on the lumpy foam? Well, yes. Because that you can't do. That's called Midat Sodom. The way of Sodom is, if I can't have it, you sure as heck are not going to have it. Right? That's the Midah of Sodom. If I can't have it, you're not going to have it. You can't do that either. So in such a case, when there's one good mattress, what do you have to do? You have to give it to the Eved, and you sleep on the lumpy foam. Okay, so realize that it's not a harsh slavery, but whatever the case is, comes Yovel, the person is freed. And what sets off that freedom? The shofar. The shofar. So this Yovel is teaching us that everything goes back, right? The land, so to speak, goes back to God, and God says, oh, this was given to this family at the time that Israel was divided up. It goes back to that family. This person was enslaved, what became a slave. This person recognizes who the real owner is, who the real master is, and this person is freed. Yes, Jen?
So at the Shemitah period, and someone's indentures are over, or period is over, and they say, I like it here, can the...
Shemitah doesn't affect the slave. It's a 6-year stint from when they were sold.
Okay.
Shemitah just doesn't affect it.
Okay, so...
Only the Yovel.
Whoa.
Only
But
Yovel.
that's not the... So at the end of the 6-year period, whenever, and they say, I like it here, can the so-called owner refuse?
Yes.
Okay.
It has to be that they both want to stay. Yeah. Okay.
By the way, Pasuk Akav Gimel is so beautiful. I think we should read it in English.
Let's hear it.
It's absolutely beautiful.
I'm always in favor of beautiful pasuk. Take it, Dahlia.
No, somebody else read it in English.
Page 700, verse 23.
והארץ לא תימכר לצפיתות, כי לי הארץ תגרים ותושבים אתם עמדי.
Beautiful. 23. The land shall not be sold in perpetuity. For the land is mine, capital M, God speaking. For you are sojourners and residents with me. right? We're living in God's land. That's what Shemitah tells us. So you can't own that land. You didn't get it because you were more wealthy. You got it from that. No. God controls it. And in terms of servitude, it's God. And that which sets it all off is the blast of the shofar on Yom Kippur of the Yovel year. Where else do we have a blast of a shofar?
Yeshua.
I'm sorry?
Yeshua.
Okay, we'll come to that soon. Good. Where else in the Torah do we have a blast of the shofar?
Matan Torah.
Good. We have Rosh Hashanah and we have Matan Torah. Look to page 404 for a minute. Right? So the Torah describes Shavuot as 7 weeks, 7 days, 7 times, 7 weeks. And then you have the 50th day Shavuot. And the Torah, of course, discusses Yovel. 7 times 7. And then you have the Yovel year. Now, there was a shofar blast. Look in verse 13. Right? Or also verse 16. Right? But take a look at verse 13. A hand shall not touch it, the mountain. For he shall surely be stoned and thrown down where the animal person shall not live. Upon extended blast of the shofar, they may ascend the mountain. Only after Matan Torah is over can a person ascend the mountain. How do you know it's over? Extended blast of the shofar. What does the Hebrew call the shofar in this pasuk? Shavuot-Yovel. It refers to the shofar as the Yovel. Very interesting. Afterwards it calls it a shofar in 16. And it was on the third day, in the morning there were sounds, thunder, lightning, heavy cloud, and the call of the shofar, chazak ma'od. But it also calls it a Yovel. Now, where else do we have this? So as Dahlia said, chapter 6 in Yoshua. V'Yericho sogeret umusgeret. Yericho was closed, sealed up in front of Bnei Yisrael. Ein yotzei ve'ein ba. No one could come in, no one could go out. Hashem said to Yoshua, see, I've delivered into your hand Yericho and its king, the mighty waters. How? You shall go around the city, encircling the city 1 time. Thus shall you do for a period of 6 days. And 7 Kohanim shall carry 7 ram shofars before the ark. So you have 7 Kohanim carrying 7 ram shofars in front of the ark, and you will encircle the city 1 time. And then, Bayom HaShvi'i, on the 7th day, Tasovu et ha'ir sheva pa'amim, you will circle the city 7 times. The Kohanim yitku, and the Kohanim will blow the shofars. And it will be, when you have that extended blast with the ram's horn, all the people shall cry out with a great cry, and the wall of the city will drop down in its place, and the people shall advance, each man straight ahead. That was the conquest of Yericho. Right? Shofar blasts, 6 days. On the 7th day, what happens? 1 time each day, 1 time each of the first 6 days. On the 7th day, 7 times. And then the walls collapse. And we conquer Yericho. And interestingly, only by Yericho was there a cherem. Cherem meant that all of the contents of that city were consecrated to God. No one was allowed to take any of that for themselves. Okay, and the whole thing with Achan did partake. Okay, but we were not allowed to take. Once again, 6 times in the 7th, and then the blast of the shofar. And wouldn't you know, listen to the Hebrew, the Shiva Kohanim, and the 7 Kohanim, Yis'u, they shall carry Shiva, 7. What do we call the shofarot? Shofarot hayovlim. Shofars of Yovel. Lifnei ha'aron. So why was it done in such a way? What is Yovel like? What is Yovel like when it comes to our conquest of Jericho? What is Yovel like about our conquest of Jericho?
Maybe it's kind of an analog to a Shavuot where we're all assembled and we see another miracle of Hashem and we receive.
Okay, assemble, see a miracle of Hashem.
Well, because like in the Jubilee year, we cannot reap, right?
Okay.
Touch, and then over here
Okay,
we
you
couldn't
can't reap,
take.
so the city became Cherem. It was consecrated, we couldn't partake of it. Let's go a step further. What happens in the Yovel year? The land returns to its owner. The land of Israel was given to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And then we had a long, arduous journey. We went down to Egypt. We were there for 210 years. We left Egypt, 40 years in the Midbar. And now what's happening? The land is returning to its owners. The land is returning back to the Jewish people. This was a Yovel, not on a personal level of land that I sold that is coming back to me. It's the land, the national land of the Jewish people, which others had come and built walls around in order to make it theirs. And now what happened? This was the Yovel point in our history. What happened? We blew the shofar ha-yovelot, and what happens to the wall? The walls of Jericho comes tumbling down. That which they put up to protect that which is theirs, it's theirs, it's theirs. The wall comes down, and the land returns back to the owner. Do we hear that? And then, like a Yovel year, it's a Shemitah year, it's Cherem, it's not for you to partake. So what happens on a 50-year level, on a 50-year cycle with landowners, happened that one time for the whole nation of the land coming back to its true owners. Now let's come back to Shavuot. So we have a one-time event of a national Yovel. We have a 50-year recurring event of the more personal Yovel. I'm a slave. I go free. I sold my land. It comes back to me. And we have an annual Yovel. What's the annual Yovel? Shavuot. So how is Shavuot an annual Yovel?
Recapping a national event.
Okay? Recapping a national event. There was the shofar blast on Har Sinai, right? Which is called the shofar, and we saw on page 404, also called the Yovel, in Parsha Yisroel. The blast of the Yovel. So what is the Yovel event that happens every year on Shavuot? So Yovel, as the pasuk that we read and that Dalia added on afterwards, it lets us know, pasuk Chav Gimel, page 701, 23. The land shall not be sold in perpetuity. The land is mine. Ki gerim v'toshavim atem imadi. You are sojourners. You are residents with me. Shavuot, Matan Torah, is the annual Yovel to remind us this world is not ours. The things we have are not ours. We are living here in God's world. Gerim v'toshavim atem imadi. Now this is interesting. Last night in the Tillim classes came up also. Moshe had two children. What were the names of Moshe's two children? Gershom and Eliezer. Why did he name his son Gershom? Gershom. Ger hayiti be'eretz nachriya. I was a stranger in a strange land. Why did he name his son Eliezer? Elokei avi be'ezri vayatzileni mecherev paro. The God of my father was there to help me, and he saved me from the sword of Paro. So Moshe was brought up in Egypt. Moshe then went out to his brothers and saw what was going on, right? And saw an Egyptian man mercilessly beating a Jew. To save the life of the Jew, he killed that Egyptian man. And he had to flee then. The sword of Paro was against him for daring to kill an Egyptian officer. And he fled to a foreign land. Which foreign land? Midian, Yitro, Tzipporah. So what was the order of events? First, God saved him from the sword of Paro, and then he was a foreigner in a foreign land. So his first son should have been named Eliezer. And the second son should have been named Gershom. First he was saved from the sword of Paro, and only then was he a foreigner in a foreign land. So you might want to answer, no. He recognized that he was a foreigner in a foreign land, even in Egypt, because he went out to see how his brothers were doing. So he identified with his brothers, the Jews, even though he was in the splendor and glamour of the palace. You could understand it that way, but the Chavetz Chaim takes it a step deeper. And he says he was recognizing that life, we are a foreigner in a foreign land. That our soul is sent down here into this world for the time that we are given here, and no one knows exactly how much time is being granted. Ger hayiti be'eretz nachriya is not that, I was living in Egypt, then I had to go, I left South Africa to go, no. Ger, my sojourn here is as a visit, as time that's being granted to us here. If we have Shabbat every week, it means the lesson of Shabbat is a lesson that needs to be knocked into our heads on a weekly basis. Amongst many other lessons, what is a lesson of Shabbat? Shabbat, you have a whole week to prepare. Prepare. Friday, things rush up a little bit. Prepare. 7:18, candle lighting, stop. Whatever's been prepared, enjoy. Whatever hasn't been prepared, can't do it now. What is that life lesson that Shabbat teaches us?
Do mitzvahs while we can.
Life. Life, we're given a certain amount of time to prepare, accomplish, do. Right? Bring good, bring tov into this world, build relationships between adam l'chaveru, between man and man, relationship between man and God, and adam l'makom. You have time to do as much as you can, stop. Yovel is geirim v'toshavim, atem imadi. Right? As we saw in Pasuk Chav Gimel. You are geirim v'toshavim, atem imadi. Recognize that you are travelers here, imadi, here with me. Shavuot is the Yovel of all Yovels. It's called Shavuot. It's the weeks that build up to it. It's our understanding that we build up and then it's a Yovel. We build up a Yovel. Build up Yovel. Life, this world, is this Yovel that we recognize that we're here in God's world. So we have that national Yovel when the walls of Jericho came tumbling down, 7 on the 7th, 7 shofar blasts, 7 kohanim, 7 shofars on the 7th day. We have our 50-year cycle, personal Yovel. I'm a slave. I'm no longer a slave. I sold land. The land comes back to me. And then we have the yearly Yovel realization. We come to Shavuot. We come to Matan Torah. We come to the giving of the Torah. And we realize on a yearly basis, we're here. There, but for the grace of God, go I. Right? We're living here in God's world. And all the mitzvot that we have are all meant to be constant reminders of where we are and constant connectors of who we are and what we are and the gift that we have of time and how we are meant to utilize that time. So the Torah doesn't spell out Shavuot, but it does spell out this Yovel. And the shofar Yovelot that we have that's by Yoshua, and again by Matan Torah, it spells out this Yovel-lisk arrangement to make sure that on a yearly basis we recognize this Yovel aspect.
By the way, the next pasuk is really interesting. I just wanted to mention that it said, "ובכל ארץ אחוזתכם גאולה תיתנו לארץ." It doesn't say the land will rest or will come back to you, to the first owner. It's like what you said about Jericho, Dodaj.
Geula titnu la'aretz. Very nice.
I think there are some psukim here that are like, you feel like putting it on the wall of the house, and looking at them.
And actually, just one other point I wanted to make. This ram's horn is always bringing a remembrance back to which event? Akedas Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac. How did Avram have the ability to go ahead with this? How did Yitzchak have the ability to go ahead with this? Only because they had this sense that there, but for the grace of God, go I. God has given me what He's given me. It's a gift. Every moment is a gift. And at a certain point He could say, Gamarnu. Right? We mentioned this before. Yitzchak comes from tzachok, laughter. Right? Yitzchak's midah, his attribute, is din, is judgment. Right? What does laughter have to do with judgment? Judgment is a very serious thing. Right? Go into a courthouse and start laughing. Right? You'll be evicted from the courthouse for disrupting the proper decorum of the courtroom. But if I recognize, right, we laugh at things that are incongruous, right? A joke is you're going in one direction and then all of a sudden it goes the other way. That's why we laugh. The very elegant person slipping on the banana peel. We laugh. Why? It's incongruous. There was such dignity and now there's such indignity. Yitzchak looked at life and laughed. Said, what do I do to deserve this? What did I do before I was born to deserve being alive? What am I doing while I'm alive to deserve this? Now it's up. The gig is over. The gig is over. You know, it's kind of like when I was a kid, I used to go to baseball games. And I used to sit all the way up in the bleachers. Then you'd see some box seats that were empty. And it's like right near the field. So you kind of nonchalantly go down. I'm not saying you should do this, but as a teenager, kind of nonchalantly go down, right? And you sit in the box seats. Until what happens? The usher comes over and says, hey kid, what are you doing here? Sorry, right? So what do? You laugh, right? It was a great gig while it lasted. Now I go back up, the 15 flights to get back to the seats. I need the binoculars to see who's playing, right? But it was a great gig while it lasted. But I don't have any claims. Why couldn't I stay longer? You understand? That's yitzchak, tzchok, laughter, din, judgment, akeda. It's been a great ride. It's been a gift. Time is up. Okay. Time is up. The same idea as the Yovel.